Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Hi, Angry Floki and Samantha P. Welcome. You got the little dancing figures there. I love it. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Liked, share, and now commenting. Fantastic. Yes, that's the new news coming out of YouTube is that when you comment on people's videos, that actually means more for the algorithm these days. So, hey, Logic Rex, good to see you. Good to see you. Glad everybody is here. All right. So, for tonight's topic, we are talking about forgiveness. And This is something that has not come easy in my life, but it is a very, very powerful thing. And There are even psychological studies that show that forgiveness is extremely useful for our own psychology, not just for uh, healing the world or anything silly like that. It's actually very, very useful to ourselves. So if you're self-interested, then forgiveness is actually something that you might want to look into. So, all right, we got Lawrence in the house. Hey, Lawrence. Survival never goes out of style. Hello, good to see you. Up, Samantha P says, doing great. Stopping by to show my support. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Um, Good to know. I love leaving comments. So do I. That's I love the comment section of YouTube sometimes more than the video section of YouTube. So, but I'm glad everybody's here tonight. And Yeah, forgiveness. Uh, One of the things that they teach in 12-step programs is, dealing with resentments, because resentments a lot of times can cause people to relapse. And it's one of those things where if you have a resentment, if somebody has done you wrong, it can be like, oh, pour me, pour me, pour me a drink. So that's one of the reasons that 12-step programs really concentrate on the idea of forgiveness. But even beyond that, I mean, there have been psychological studies recently. I was looking some of this stuff up earlier, and there was a forgiveness training offered at Stanford, and there were women that when they arrived there, they had a hurt score. They like do the little surveys and stuff like that. They had a hurt score of 8.5 out of 10, but by the time they left, their self-reported hurt had reduced to 3.5. And also, long term, these women reported feeling fewer feelings of depression and increased optimism. So, forgiveness is one of those things that is really, really valuable to us, and not necessarily to the person we're forgiving. So, Samantha P says, great topic. Resentment was a huge obstacle in my life. Yes. And I can agree with you there. So, um, like my father, dealing with my father, this is one hell of a story. My father's a lawyer. And He dealt with some pro bono clients who were ladies of the night, shall we say. One of these was also I won't share that. But anyway, he had this woman staying at our home. I was living with him at the time. And she was getting back on her feet, whatever, had a child. We were helping her, babysit the child and whatnot, as she was dealing with various legal battles. And then one night I walked into him and her in the same bed. And if you know anything about doing pro bono law work, you cannot accept favors such as, those offered by ladies of the night. And Having caught my father in the bed with this woman, he proceeded to try and strangle me 3 times. He was absolutely furious. Needless to say, that destroyed my relationship with my father. And I had a lot of feelings of resentment dealing with that afterwards. It shattered everything that I thought about my father, because this was the man that I thought was ethical and moral and upstanding citizen of the community and everything like that. And no, here he is, doing something that could get him disbarred. And yeah, I didn't mind so much that he was sleeping with a prostitute. It's that he was sleeping with his pro bono client. No, you're not supposed to do that. So yeah, and for years afterwards, just dealt with huge resentment towards him, and just how unfair it was, because then he threw me out of the house, and all sorts of other things. I ended up, just in dire straits because he had to get his jollies. And I thought it was extremely unfair, and just hated the man, hated the man, hated the man for years, hated the man. And finally, had to get around to forgiving him. It hasn't helped our relationship any, because I still don't talk to him, but it helped me. And they say in the 12 steps, or 12-step programs, having a resentment is like wishing somebody else was dead and you drink the poison. So, the resentment wasn't helping me, certainly wasn't helping my health, anything like that. Um, yeah. Yeah, he threw me out. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely family. So, hey, Joanne, welcome. Um, so yeah, I have every reason to be angry with the man. I have every reason to hate the man to this day. But you know, it's literally not healthy. Um, it carrying around that type of anger uh, doesn't do me any good. It doesn't hurt him any that I'm angry with him. It's like, what does it affect his life? None whatsoever. So how then to forgive the man? And one of the things that I was taught was, if you want to forgive somebody, you can't just say, "Oh, I forgive you." "Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it." That sort of thing. No, you got to go deeper than that. And what it is that you have to wish that they had what you want. So, and one way to do this is prayer. Even if you don't believe in a higher power, or God or anything like that, you can still just sit there and go, okay, I hope he has good friends, because that's one thing that I want. I hope he has people who love him. Again, that's what I want. I hope that he finds a good partner in life that will live with him through thick and thin. I hope he gets that luxury class car. Whatever it is that you are wanting, whatever it is that you want to come into your life, you have to hope for them. And you sit down and you just say, whatever power in the universe there is, please give this man everything that I want. These are the things that I want, and I hope that he gets them. I hope that he finds peace in his heart. I hope that he's able to sleep through the night. I hope that he finds moments of spontaneous love and joy, and other things like that. Anything that you feel that you really want, you wish for the other person. And it helps change our brain chemistry. And there have been psychological studies on this, as far as fairness. There are two different areas in the brain as far as fairness that light up. And if they've run these experiments where they'll give a person $10, and they can offer the other person any amount that they want. But if the other person refuses, then nobody gets the money. So it's one of those sort of dilemmas, do you offer them $5, split it evenly? Do you offer them $1? Because economics would say take any amount that you can get regardless, because it's $1 more than you had before, right? So you're not out anything, you're actually gaining something, but that's not how human brains work. There's a psychology that goes on to economics that kind of baffles economists because they tend to be autists and very just numbers oriented and very logic oriented. But our human brains don't work logically. We work emotionally a lot of the time. And so what they found in these experiments, this sharing experiment of splitting money, is that if the person wasn't offered at least 20 or 30% of what the total amount is, different parts of their brains lit up. So if the person thought it was fair, the reward system in the brain lit up and they would take the deal. If the person thought that the deal was unfair, the same areas of the brain that are involved in disgust lit up. And so there's this real visceral reaction that we have when things are unfair. And that sort of circuit, if that gets triggered, unfair treatment from somebody else, that can create real negative emotion. Viktor Frankl talked about it in Man's Search for Meaning, where a lot of times, like the Nazis would beat people for no reason, or they do severe punishment for a very, very small infraction. And the result is that the humiliation and the resentment at being punished at an unfair level was actually worse than the physical beating itself. And so that's why, when it comes to, because sometimes people are going to do us dirty, and there's nothing that we can do about them doing us dirty. Sometimes things are going to be unfair, and there's nothing we can do about things being unfair. But what we can do is we can forgive. And that can rewire our brains and rewire which circuits are being lit up as a result of that. And with my father, instead of having that negative emotion and that disgust center of my brain lit up as a result, I can then turn it into the forgiveness turns it into a moment of compassion. It turns it into a moment of healing. Not for him, because he's 1,000 miles away. He has no idea that any of this is going on. It happens for me, and it's healing for me to be able to forgive like that. And that in the Civil War, as I mentioned in the description of the video, after the Civil War, the North really, really wanted to punish the South. Their people were killed. Cities were burned. All sorts of atrocities happened. And, because the South had started this, the North wanted to punish, because there's a very strong punishment circuit that exists in the brain as well, where if you do an experiment and somebody starts cheating, like if you have 10 participants in a game of whatever it is, and one person starts cheating, the experimenters came up and said, okay, you can give $1 and we'll create an enforcement board, and then they'll enforce whatever it is and keep the cheating from happening. Everybody was willing to pitch in $1 to make sure that no cheating happened. But then the problem came is that when you do that, you actually empower the people that are supposed to enforce the rules at a larger extent than the actual participants. So say that, everybody's given $10 at the beginning of the game to play. Well, now everybody's paying in $1, 10 participants, everybody's paying in $1. Now all of the participants have $9 and the enforcement agency has 10. So that actually gives them more power over everybody in the game, which I thought was really interesting. And they actually didn't go into that part when they were doing the psychological study. They were just pointing out that people were willing to pay money. They were willing to take a loss in order to ensure that fairness happened. And yeah, it's because of those circuits in our brain. We don't see it as a loss if we can avoid those negative emotions of disgust, and make sure that everybody is playing according to the same rules. So Samantha P has a comment here with the Stanford experiment shows how quickly humans can take that road. Yep. Yep. And that's the thing is when after the Civil War, Abe Lincoln, what he famously said was, "Let them up easy, boys." He was trying to heal the nation. And instead of, jerking these people back up quickly off their feet in some sort of, measure of spite or revenge or anything like that, he said, "Let them up easy." And with what's going on in society today and all the conflict that I see going on, I think we really need to start practicing forgiveness now. Practice forgiving the people in our lives. Practice forgiving the person that just cut us off in traffic. Practice all these different things now and get those circuits up and running, get those habits going of learning how to forgive and what works for us as far as, being able to forgive, um, so that when, the left and right try and come back together, we can forgive these people. Because one of the things that I'm seeing on the pain forums right now, um, I have several Twitter accounts based on what subject I'm dealing with, because some things I want to be apolitical, and pain is one of those. There's not an administration since Nixon that has done pain patients well. They've all done pain patients dirty. Um, you know, from the criminalization of marijuana, which is actually a medicine, on up to, the war on drugs with Reagan, and going forward with Clinton and Obama. I mean, Obama was terrible when it came to pain patients, and us being able to get our medications. Well, most of the people in the pain forums on Twitter and things like that, they're all lefties. You know, they were all Biden voters, and I was hearing from, and which blew my mind because I knew that Biden was part of that whole Obama thing that really destroyed pain patients, and now there was just a forum or something like that, um, with Biden and Kamala Harris, and they were talking about the opioid crisis, and they're going to crack down even harder than Trump did, harder than Obama did. And all my friends in the pain community are like, I voted for Obama and I may have made a mistake. And I'm like, oof. Now would be such a time to gloat. Now would be such a time to, rub salt in the wounds and go, I told you so. I was trying to tell you so, and you wouldn't listen, and you blocked people, and you got angry at people, and you did, and you did, and you did, and you can't do any of that. You can't do any of that. If you want these people to learn and to come over to the side of the correct side, the side of the right, as it were, which is kind of a bad pun, but we have to forgive. We have to realize that every one of us has feet of clay, and that none of us is perfect. We all make mistakes all the time, and you know our response, we all feel like, to a certain extent, well, if you have any sort of moral compass, you feel like you should be punished for the things that you screw up. I screwed this up. This bad thing happened as a consequence. Okay, yeah, I deserve that. I deserved that. But how refreshing is it when, somebody could. Hold on a second. Damson! You know better. I'm on the live. Good dog. How much better does it feel when we know we've done wrong and we know we deserve, our asses handed to us, to have somebody say, look, I understand. I'm going to be lenient. I think you learned your lesson, and I don't think I need to follow it up with a double whammy of punishment. So, yeah, that's why I think we should be practicing forgiveness now, because so many people are waking up. Biden is acting like president-elect, even though the news is coming out that these Dominion servers are completely foobarred, and 28 states now may need to have their elections overturned and everything else because they use Dominion servers with the Smartmatic software. Yeah, so practice forgiveness, because these people are going to need forgiving. These people are going to go, oh crap, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I voted for the wrong side. They did cheat, not that anybody really believes in the election. Well, some people do, but they're going to have to come to terms with the facts that, yeah, this election was stolen. Yeah, they voted for the wrong candidate, that sort of thing. And so, I think forgiveness is going to be very important going forward from here. So I'm going to look at the comments now. Angry Floki says, I saw a Holocaust survivor wrote a forgiveness letter and other Jewish people got mad at her. Yep, that's, that's the thing, is that sometimes you will get crap for forgiving people. How you shouldn't do that, they should get their, but you have to understand that they're still in their anger. They're still in their disgust. They're still in their, that negative emotion center of their brain. And it's not helping them to be stuck there. It's not good. It creates more of the stress hormone cortisol. It creates, less serotonin, less dopamine, things like that. So you're talking about real physiological sort of outcomes from, not forgiving people. And so, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people to forgive. I mean, honestly, I have no reason to forgive my father. He's 1,000 miles away. We don't have a relationship. He's never going to talk to me again. He threw out everything that I owned, because it was all still at his house when I fled. Yeah, but I can't hold that against him. The man is sick. And do you punish somebody who's sick? No, you don't. You forgive them. You go, okay, they're sick. They're sick in the head. Something wrong with them, And honestly, it's full blown alcoholism with him at this point. He's fallen down drunk I don't know how many times. He always does it at home, so nobody knows about it. But yeah. But I have to forgive him, and it's a process. It's not something that happens instantaneously. It's something that we have to do, for a long time. I had to sit there, and still to this day, I will pray for my father, because I'll have just those memories that come up where I'm like, ooh, and he did that, ooh, and then I'll have to, just go, no, the man deserves forgiveness because he's a human being, and but for the grace of God, there go I. So, all right, let's see. I voted for him the first time, then I was done. I'm not sure which. Are you voting? Talking about Obama? I think you are, Joanne. I'm gonna think that you are. So, Audrey Craig says the office of the president-elect. The fuck is that? Oh, excuse my language. TF is that? Okay, fair warning. I've been drinking. Yeah, the office of the president-elect. They made that up. It does not exist. And the electoral votes aren't even in yet. So, I mean, there is a president elect, once they've been elected, but Biden hasn't even been elected yet, and they're already claiming it. So, yeah, it's crazy. Um, so, yeah, this is about the Stanford experiment. They had some student participants play the role of officers and convicts. Yeah. Students started treating their fellow classmates so bad, so fast that not only did the students start, but the guy who was heading the experiment, he sent the videotapes to another professor of his, and she was just appalled. And she said, "You need to shut it down now." And he's like, "Why? What's going on?" And she said, "Do you see your body language when you're walking around that place? It's the exact same body language as, like when dictators are um, looking over prison camps and things like that. You've got your hands behind you, clasped behind you, and your chest is puffed out, and you're nodding, and it's all the same body language. And that's what actually got the guy to pull the experiment, was what he was turning into, not just what the students were doing. So, um, yeah, the Stanford prison experiments, I think, is what it's called. So, yeah, but so yeah, forgiveness. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to forgive. We'd rather hold on to hurt feelings. We'd rather, see that somebody get punished for wrongdoing. We'd rather people be forced to play fair. That there's an enforcement mechanism. We'll pay money into having an enforcement mechanism, so that people don't cheat. When people play fair, the reward system of our brain lights up. When people cheat, or deal with us unfairly, the disgust area of our brain lights up, and that disgust area of our brain is more powerful than physical beatings. Isn't that kind of amazing? You know? But then the forgiveness. When we forgive, our distress drops, our sense of wrongness drops. Like, we can think about the world as a fair and just place, which it obviously isn't. It's the world. But we can think of it that way, or we can dwell on the fact that the world isn't fair, that life isn't fair, that nothing is fair, and we can have that really weigh on our soul, or we can forgive. You know, here's one from Angry. Angry Floki says, I had a brother run over while sitting in traffic on his motorcycle, and the woman said in court she didn't veer off because she didn't want to get hurt. Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, is that, how do you forgive in cases like that? Yeah, it's taken a long time to let go. And it's a process. It is a process, because that was unjust. That was extremely unjust. And somebody got very, very hurt as a result. I assume he lived, I hope. Tell me he lived. But even if he didn't, people killing other people, we have to forgive. Because it does us no good to hold on to that. Does us absolutely no good. Um, so practice, practice forgiving. Practice forgiving just for the little things. Yeah, somebody cuts you off in traffic. Somebody says something you don't like on Twitter. Just sit there and go, okay, I forgive you. I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what horrible things you're going through in your life. I forgive you. I forgive you. It's okay. And see if you can just start with small steps like that. See if you can just do it a little piecemeal at a time. And if it comes back, if those negative feelings come back, then redouble your efforts. Okay, let's try it again. We're going to do it again. And I'm going to wish all these good things for you. I'm going to wish that you have these wonderful things in your life. And I'm going to, hope that you get them. And see if you can start again and get that forgiveness going again. And the effects are powerful. Being able to let go of that resentment can keep alcoholics from drinking, can keep people who are addicted to drugs from relapsing. That's how powerful forgiveness is. And so we're at the halfway mark. So I'm going to open it up to questions in the chat if anybody wants to do that. And I'm going to take a moment to refreshen my pipes, as it were, with a little bit of Red Bull and a little bit of nicotine. So I need to get better lighting going here. I'm working on it. Wednesday I get my government cheese and I'll get some better lighting. So yeah, this is from positivepsychology.com. While previously entirely consumed by anger, hurt, and grief, they left still mourning their loved ones, but with a measure of forgiveness and the ability to cope. If I develop bad feelings towards those who make me suffer, this will only destroy my own peace of mind. But if I forgive, my mind becomes calm. So here's one from Samantha P. Sorry to hear that, Floki. My sister was killed a few months ago by a drunk truck driver that slammed into her car and it exploded on impact. She was only 26. Very hard. Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. And that's the hardest thing to forgive sometimes is the loss of a loved one, because you can never get them back. It's not like somebody steals from you and you can make that money back, or you can get another car like that again or something like that. You can never get that life back. And you can go over all the things in your mind about, shouldn't have been drinking and driving, shouldn't have been on that road, shouldn't have been going that speed. It can consume you. It can absolutely consume you. And so, what do? Do you hang on to that resentment and bitterness forever? Do you let it consume your life? Do you let it destroy your life? I mean, I know people have been driven to suicide because of the loss of a loved one like that. They could not think of their life without their sibling, and they went to join them. And that just, created further grief in the family. But that's the kind of hard feelings that can be left. And forgiveness can save us from results like that. So, yeah, tragedy. How do we deal with tragedy? So Lawrence says the strange thing about me is I never seem to get angry at anyone. I can get angry at machines when they do not work right, but that's about it. Now that's interesting. Um, that's interesting. It may be, Lawrence, that you understand that people don't always work right. You know, machines are supposed to work right, and that's why you get mad at machines. You know, it's because, dang it, it's supposed to run. Um, and but we know that people don't always do that. So maybe you've got a better grasp on that than others. That's interesting. I like that. So Survival says he's kind of like that too. Yeah. And, you know, oh, Joanne, same thing. I don't get very angry at people either. So very cool. Um, I I get very angry at machines. So I can understand that, but I also can get very, very angry at people. Um, and I think it may be, you know, the unfairness of my disease has already got that whole part of my brain sort of overexcited to a certain extent. You know, the unfairness of life, the unfairness. You know, I used to be so angry at God. I used to be so angry at God. And how do you forgive God? You know, God, you shouldn't have done me dirty like that. And yeah, I actually had to forgive God and forgive life and forgive, you know, my circumstances and all of these doctors and everything else who, you know, because I was mad at them. Shouldn't they have known better? Shouldn't they have had tested me earlier? Shouldn't they have had, you know, this solution? Shouldn't they have known that, you know, because of this disease, this wouldn't work? And yeah, just really frustrated with the whole system and very, very angry at the whole thing. Um, and So a long process of forgiveness with that, long process. And teaching other people um, how to forgive uh, can also, you know, help teach us how to forgive ourselves. So Logic Rex says, essentially, she used me in a 4-year relationship. I wasn't totally innocent with the F ups. Truth be told, I was a bit of an asshole, but she did me dirty AF. Yep. Um, I was so pissed. I used to tell tell him to F off 100%. Yep. And yeah, yeah, it's, but what good does it do us to stay in that angry place? Yeah, what do we miss out on? What joys do we miss out on in life? What pleasures do we miss out on in life when we're holding on to that anger? Um, you know, yeah, these people in our lives do us dirty. But if we don't move on from that, if we can't move past that, you know, they end up hurting us long past the time that they hurt us. You know, they end up hurting us, you know, via remote. Um, they hurt us when they're no longer in our life. Uh, they, you know, we're doing the work for them, basically. And that's not fair. You know, that's certainly not fair to us to continue the bad deeds that they've been doing. You know, so we got to learn to forgive. We got to learn to give it up and say it's not worth it. You know, it's not. I may be justified. I may be 100% correct. You know, but it's not worth it, and that can be extremely hard. That can be extremely hard. So Survival says, my little brother had an ex do him so dirty that he took his own life. Holy cow. wow. I've had to forgive this woman, and I've had to forgive my little brother for his suicide. This was 7 years ago. Yeah, yeah. Um, that's that's why forgiveness can be so powerful. Is that, if he could have forgiven her, would he have done what he did? Now, that's not to second guess or anything like that, because, oh Lord, there's some things we can't take back. Um, and yeah, I'm glad you were able to forgive both of them, Survival. That had to be hard. That had to be hard. Um, Lawrence says, I curse at my computer when I lose internet connection, especially when something is going into something interesting. Yeah, because machines are supposed to do the task that they're given. They're not. No, computers are so complex at this point. They're almost human in their ability to screw up. So, Logic Grace says, appreciate it, bro. I've broken up for 3-4 years now. I still think about her every day, and just recently I've been able to not let the emotions get to me. Ooh, yeah. And that's the other thing is time. You know, sometimes this forgiveness stuff takes time because I know my dad hurt me years and years and years ago, you know. And it's only recently that I've been able to even pray for him. Um, I was still that angry with what he had done. Um, but forgive yourself and give yourself time. It's not something you have to do perfectly. It's not something you have to do all at once right away. Give yourself time to forgive. Um, so, yeah. Lawrence says, Survival, I'm so sorry that happened to you and your brother. My older brother was treated badly in a 10-year marriage, and he tried so hard to make it work. Yeah. I tried to make my marriage work too. Hey now. Hey now. And forgiving my ex, things like that. But what are you going to do when somebody's gone? That's the only thing we can do. To honor their memory, we should try and live the best life that we can. And we can do that through forgiveness, through forgiving them, through forgiving the person that harmed them, all of it. Um, if we want to make this world a better place, if we want to heal going forward, you know, forgiveness is what we have. So, and Survival says, thanks, everyone. So, you're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, the things that people can do to one another, the atrocities that we can commit on one another is mind-blowing. The human capacity for evil is frightening. And especially when people are given an excuse, that they think that they're committing, when they commit evil and they think that they're actually doing good. They can commit the worst atrocities. If you don't know the book, what was it? Ordinary Men. It was a book about how these normal German citizens, these people weren't Nazi supporters. These people weren't the SS. They weren't any of that. They were just ordinary men, and they were recruited by the Nazis to work in the prison camps. And they ended up doing some of the worst atrocities because they were doing it for the good of the German people. They thought they were doing it for the survival of their race. And so, yeah, the corruption The corruption is real. The evil in men's hearts is real. The who was it? I think it was Young who said that um, the evil in men's hearts reaches all the way to the depths of hell, and we can create hell on earth quite easily. We saw it with Nazi Germany. We saw it with the Soviet Union. We see it now with the Chinese and the Chinese Communist Party. Um, we can create hell on earth. We see it now with some of the things that Antifa and BLM are doing. Some of the things these governors are doing with the lockdowns. We can create hell on earth. And the only way to come out of it on the other side is to learn how to forgive. So Joanne says, and a lot of people have agreed with her, forgiveness is for you, not the other person. Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't always help them because they're not always in the picture anymore. It's definitely for us, for the way that the neurochemistry works. The studies that are out there, if you go ahead and Google like psychology forgiveness studies, you'll see this stuff. This is things that are hardwired in our brains, and it's not something we learned. These circuits that light up. One of the things that they mentioned in all of these studies that I read. This is not something that we learn fairness. There is an innate sense of fairness hardwired into our brain. And so when that is violated, we're dealing with some very, very old circuitry in there. Monkeys cheat one another. So even before we are human, monkeys have a sense of fairness. There's some great videos online that you can see where like two monkeys are playing a game, and as a result of doing the test, they're given a reward of a grape. Well, then they start giving one of the monkeys 2 grapes as a reward, and they give the other monkey 1 grape. And that monkey will throw the grape that they got back at the experimenter and start banging on the screen saying, no, they got 2, I should get 2. So this sense of fairness has existed even before we were human beings. Survival never goes out of style says, that's just monkey business. Great pun there. Oh my goodness. I always love a good pun. I graduated with an English degree, so I always love a good pun. But yeah, animals have a sense of fairness. Dogs have a sense of fairness. If you give one dog a treat and the other dog doesn't get a treat, they will bug the bejesus out of you to get that treat. No, I get a treat too. What about my treat? This isn't fair. The dog will get upset. So, just remember that, the sense of fairness, our sense of right and wrong, when you're going up against that in the human brain, it's something that is, older than our species. And so the ability to forgive, which I don't know that, well, I guess dogs do forgive, because if you hurt a dog, they can forgive you and come back to you. They can also not forgive you and shy away from you forever, which I had with a neighbor's dog. That dog still does not like me because my dog was not fair with her dog. They got into a fight over a toy, and my dog did not let go, and it ended up being a bad scene, and that dog is still afraid of me. Even when my dog isn't around her, she knows that it's me, and she hasn't forgiven me yet. So, but yeah, I mean, animals have a sense of fair and right and wrong. And so, our ability to forgive as human beings is extremely powerful. It's extremely powerful. It helps us in ways that other animals don't have access to. Um, so we're really lucky in that way. And we're really lucky that, we can talk about these things and we have the technology to talk about these things. So, yeah, yeah. Where are we on the time here? We've got 10 minutes left. So, Survival's got a question here. Pam, what do you think about forgiving oneself for something a person may have done? Hypothetical question. Forgiving myself is probably harder than forgiving somebody else. There are things that I am still mad at myself for doing, and that's some of the worst, nasty thoughts that can come up during a migraine is, times where I screwed up. And bad things happen as a result. I've I've destroyed relationships. I've hurt people really badly that didn't deserve it. I've I've lost pets over stupid mistakes that I knew I was making when I was making the mistake, and those things haunt me. And that, I think, forgiving ourselves is the hardest thing to do. It's one of those things where the thing that I was taught in order to forgive myself, and I'm still working on a lot of these things as far as going through this process, is if I were a child, if I were 40 years older, what would I tell myself now about forgiving myself? Um, you know, if a child had done what I had done and didn't know how to forgive themselves, what would I tell to that child? And to say that to myself, um, and do it that way, see, or your best friend. Imagine if it was your best friend who had done it, or somebody who you love who did that same thing. What would you tell them in order to help them forgive themselves? And do that to yourself. Give yourself that self-talk. And as I said, I haven't completely forgiven myself for a lot of things. So it's a process. You just keep doing it. Like anything else, like practicing the guitar. You keep doing it until you get it. So, Samantha P says, catastrophe justifies itself and the nobility of your striving to overcome it, and that's what it means to be an individual. Jordan Peterson. I think JP is Jordan Peterson, right? So Logic Rex has put up a thinky emoji. So, yeah, has anybody tried that? Has anybody been successful in forgiving themselves in those kind of situations? Have you tried self-talk like that? Or is this a new concept to you? So, now we'll wait in the comments to see. We've only got a few minutes left, so if you have any questions, also put them in there as well. And don't forget to smash that like button. Logic Rex is thinky. Good call. Yeah, think about it, and maybe hit me up in the comments tomorrow. Oh, it's a new concept for you. Right on. That's awesome. Yeah, think about it tonight, and when this video gets published tomorrow on YouTube, leave a comment. Tell me if you've come up with any ideas or anything like that. I'll tell you a vision I had one time. I was in a level 10 migraine, and I didn't want to take the pain pills. Because I thought that it was my duty to muscle through the pain and to let the migraine end naturally, and that, it would just go away with time. And, this pain, I could suffer through it. I could suffer through it. And finally, I ended up, I couldn't sleep. My head was just killing me so bad. And I was in the shower, and I had the shower on full blast hot to the back of my neck, and it was just helping take the edge off. And then suddenly I had this vision. My vision went white, and there I was. I was walking towards myself, but it was an older version of myself, um, holding a younger version of myself by the hand. So it was like 4-year-old me and 40-year-old me. And I looked at myself, and this is going to get complicated, but older me looked at me and said, "You're in a lot of pain right now, right?" I said, "Yeah." And older me looked at me and said, "Would you tell this child, this younger version of you, that it's okay for her to be suffering in this level of pain?" And I said, "Oh God, no." And my older version of me said, "So why aren't you taking the pain pills?" And I got out of the shower and I immediately took the pain pills. It's one of those things where it's not just you in there. It's you and all of the younger versions of yourself. There's a child within each of us of all ages, of all of our ages of our children are inside of us. And would we make them suffer the way that we're suffering now? And if the answer is no, then change something. So Samantha P says, "It's been maybe 5 or so years and I've been able to forgive and not be resentful." That's awesome. That is awesome. You are free. And that's an amazing place to be. So Survival says, "I hate when my brain goes to something I've done in the past out of nowhere. I keep telling myself, nobody else remembers this douche moment you had. Let it go, and I can usually brush it off." Yeah, that's true. But there's also the idea of, it keeps coming back up because, you know, there's something in us that, we feel like we could make that same mistake again. Um, you know, One thing that they say about pain is that it's hard to remember until you're in that level of pain again. And so, these, intrusive bad thoughts, for me, they come up with a migraine. When I'm going into migraine depression, I will think about all the horrible times that I have felt that way. And, the last time I felt this horrible, well, this happened. So I remember that happening. And yeah, it may be that you need to look at why your brain is bringing that up. You know, are you in a situation where you fear that you're going to make that same mistake? And if that's the case, you might need to tell yourself, hey, I learned my lesson. Yeah, I was a douche. Nobody remembers it. It's okay. I've grown. I am not the same person. I am not that same douche. I've learned my lesson. I've gotten past it. It won't happen again. And I can let it go. So, yeah, maybe that's the tack that you need to take with your forgiveness is, saying that you've grown up since then. You've grown up since then. You're a new person. That old thing is not going to happen the way it did then. So, um, Samantha B says, "That's what I would do too, take hot showers for my chronic nausea." Yeah, like you mentioned, it barely takes the edge off. Anti-nausea meds do nothing. Ooh. I don't know if you can do this or if it would be possible for you, but I know that the best anti-nausea for me ever was medical marijuana. So you might try. Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, we got a minute left. That hour flew by, Samantha B says. And Survival says it did too. All right. So Oh, hear you loud and clear, Clam. Thank you. You're very welcome. Yeah, I hope that this was helpful to everybody. Joanne also says it was a quick hour. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. You know, it's a tough topic, uh, but I'm really glad that you guys were here with me for it. And you guys are such a supportive group. You're so amazing. So, Joanne says, thank you, Pam. You're very welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to smash the like on the way out. And when the video's up tomorrow, comment on it. Let me know if you've got any revelations coming through about forgiveness or anything like that. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. So, y'all have a good night.